Wanda Gåg, author and illustrator of the book Millions of Cats, spent her childhood in the town of New Ulm in Minnesota. Wanda Hazel Gåg was born in New Ulm, March the 11th, 1893, the first child of Lissy and Anton Gåg. Both Lissy and Anton's families had come from the German area of Bohemia in Central Europe. They were talented artists and photographers, and they took many pictures of their beautiful little daughter. When Wanda was 2, her sister, Stella Lona, was born. She was fair and blue-eyed, a contrast to Wanda's hazel eyes and dark hair. 2 years later, Lissy had a third daughter, named Thusnelda Blondine, later drawn by Wanda when she was 15 years old. Then came a fourth daughter, Asta Theopolis, again drawn by Wanda, and a fifth daughter, Daly Maryland, in another sketch by Wanda. When Wanda was in the 4th grade, a boy finally was born in the Gåg family, Howard Anthony Jerome. The 5 little girls supposed a brother would be all right. From an early age, all the children were taught by Anton how to draw. Wanda especially was very talented and was determined to be an artist. Her father said, "I may not have much money, but I am rich in children." On the left is Stella with the big bow. In the middle, standing on a chair, is little Daly, and Wanda is on the right in the dark dress. In front of Wanda is Thusnelda, then sitting in the middle is Asta, and finally sitting in front of Stella is Howard, the youngest and the only boy. Wanda said about her childhood in New Ulm, "We thought we had exactly the right yard, and funny tall house, and exactly the right papa and mama." Anton and Lissy taught the children the customs, fairy tales, and folk songs from Bohemia. Lissy also designed many clothes and costumes for the children. Anton was a very fine painter, but he could not make enough money with his art to support his large family. So Anton on the left became a house painter with 2 artist friends, Chris in the middle and Alex on the right. They also painted scenes inside churches, public buildings, and sometimes even homes. On a wall said to be decorated by Anton, some people have wondered if perhaps he were not painting the faces of his own children. Anton took Wanda around with him on his jobs, teaching her how to draw, and they spent quiet Sundays together drawing in his attic studio at home. When Wanda was in the 8th grade, Lissy had another baby, a tiny girl named Flavia Betty Salome. But the next winter, Anton caught a cold painting in an unheated church, and he never got well again. He died of tuberculosis in May 1908, just 3 days before baby Flavia's first birthday. Anton's last words were to 15-year-old Wanda. "What Papa is unable to do, Wanda will have to finish," he said, clearly wanting Wanda to develop her talent as an artist. Soon after her father died, she started writing a diary and drawing pictures about what happened in the family or at school each day. She wrote about her 5 little sisters and how hard it was to be the oldest child in the family. She complained about the only boy, Howard, who was sometimes naughty, like the little boy on the left in her picture, "Toddy has hanged our dollies." The 5 little girls are most likely Daly, Thusnelda, Stella, Asta, and baby Flavia. In her diary, she wrote about staying home from school to do the housework and to take care of Flavia. Life for the Gågs was hard without Anton, and now their mother Lissy also was very sick. Somehow Wanda found time to write a story, Robbie Bobby in Mother Gooseland, working hard on 60 pictures that she sold to a Minneapolis newspaper to make a little money for her family. She decorated dozens of little calendars and valentines, postcards and bookmarks, and then sold them to friends and neighbors to earn money. She made a list of her 7 dearest possessions, her sweet peas, and wrote about her dream to become an artist, draw on, draw ever. In the 10th grade, she won an award for 3 drawings, one of Asta, one of Thusnelda, and one of Daly. Her talent, hard work, and determination began to make her dream come true. When she was 17, the German newspaper in New Ulm wrote that she won a medal for drawing a picture chosen 2nd best in Minnesota. She had no money to buy a chain for the medal, so she wore it on a ribbon around her neck. Many people in New Ulm said she was old enough now to quit school and go to work. But she and her mother were determined she would continue with her class. And so she did, often hand-painting little cards and other souvenirs for her friends during their last year at New Ulm High School. She graduated in 1912 and worked the next year as a teacher in a country school. When she was 20, she got a scholarship to go to art school, first in St. Paul and then at the Minneapolis Art Institute. In art school, Wanda's drawings for a magazine showed that she had a great deal of talent as an illustrator. She was becoming a very fine artist indeed, especially in her pictures of children, like the ones she had drawn of her own sisters and brother when she was growing up. Suddenly, in the winter of 1917, she was called back to New Ulm because her mother was very sick. Snowbound, at home because of a terrible blizzard, Wanda Gåg died of pneumonia, with Wanda at her bedside. Wanda was only 24 years old, but in charge now of her brother and 5 younger sisters. She sold the house in New Ulm and moved the family to Minneapolis, where she was determined they would stay together somehow. They lived in an upstairs apartment on First Avenue in South Minneapolis. Stella and Thusnelda worked to pay the bills, and Asta did the housework. Daly and Howard went to high school, and little Flavia went to a nearby elementary school. Wanda herself had gotten another scholarship, this time to study art far away in New York. Her devotion to her sisters and brother made the decision whether to leave them a hard one for Wanda. But the family all agreed she must accept this chance to develop her talent as an artist just like their father had wanted her to do. So Wanda moved to New York, where she worked at advertising jobs so she could send money back to her family in Minnesota. But she wanted to use her imagination for more serious pictures. such as the unusual drawing of an old house she called Tumble Timbers, and the drawing of a machine that looked and felt to her like a dinosaur or some creature she imagined from the past. Wanda's art began to win awards and go on exhibit all over New York, the rest of the United States, finally around the world. Then a book publisher asked her to write a story to go with her pictures. She studied cats and wrote a little story about them for a children's book concerning an old man who went to find his wife a cat. And in 1928, Millions of Cats was published, one of the very first picture books in the United States. For the pictures of the very old man and very old woman, Wanda said she thought back to the way the German Bohemian people of New Ulm had looked to her as a child in Minnesota. For the inside of the house, perhaps Wanda remembered the happy days she'd spent on the Grandma folks' farm near New Ulm. Millions of Cats was a great success, so Wanda went on to write and illustrate The Funny Thing, Snippy and Snappy, and Nothing at All. The Funny Thing was a silly creature who liked to eat children's dolls rather than cheese or cabbage. And the story and pictures Wanda created from her imagination are like fairy tales she had been told as a child. Snippy and Snappy look like the small creatures Wanda had often drawn on calendars and bookmarks when she was a girl. In the story of three dogs, one of whom was invisible and called Nothing at All, she showed her talent once again for drawing fine pictures of children. By now, everyone in the Gåg family had graduated from high school and either joined Wanda in New York or visited her often. Sitting on the grass with one of Wanda's cats are Daly, Stella, Howard, Wanda, Wanda's husband, Earl Humphreys, and Flavia. Some books were group projects by this talented family. For ABC Bunny, Howard drew the round fat letters, and the bunny's song was written by Flavia, who later became an artist and author of her own books. Next, Wanda wrote down the old story called Gone is Gone, which she said had been told to her long ago by her grandmother. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was one of the many German fairy tales she illustrated and translated into English. Her famous picture books became known all around the world and were printed in many different languages. In 1945, Wanda became ill with lung cancer. She was often too weak to draw, so she rested on a couch, writing another book of even more Grimm's fairy tales. She said, "Fairy tales are fun when you're sick in bed." And when she felt well, she worked on over 80 drawings for the new book she was planning. But she died June 27, 1946, and her book, More Tales from Grimm, was published after her death, with many of the drawings unfinished. For Wanda Gåg, the family's home on Washington Street in New Ulm had been a happy place and a sad place. It is still standing today. There is new paint and siding. Now there are paved sidewalks, and trees have grown up all around. And in 1953, a sign was placed in the front yard by the people of New Ulm. The sign reads, "Home of Wanda Gåg, artist and author," and her sister Flavia once came to New Ulm for a visit. Much of the art by Anton and Wanda can be seen today at the County Museum at the old German-style building, which was once the post office in New Ulm. An enormous statue of a German hero was built the year that Wanda's sister Thusnelda was born. In fact, the Gåg's new baby, Thusnelda, had been named in honor of the hero's wife, Thusnelda. Well, this statue, high on a hill, still overlooks the town below. Wanda's father, Anton, did the artwork in 1891 on the New Ulm State Monument, which is still standing today along one of the town's main streets. Anton would have been proud of his oldest daughter, Wanda, of her talent and hard work, her determination and imagination in her paintings and picture books. And he would have been proud of her loyal devotion to her family. What Anton Gåg was unable to do, Wanda Gåg, artist and author, most certainly finished.